Finally it's here. After all the excitement, the hype and the chatter on both sides of the fence, is it going to be any good? Is it going to be absolute crap? It's finally here. Let's talk about the first episode. Bonjour. Right, so the world is waking up to The Last of Us. America, unless you was one of the glorious elites that got to see it early. America yesterday, England, UK today. I don't know about the rest of Europe. Anyway, this first episode, of one full disclaimer at the beginning of this, there are going to be spoilers because I really want to get down into what was so good about a lot of this episode. And also, I never played the game, so I've come at this show as a virgin to the whole world. So from that point of view, I thought this extended episode, I don't know if they're all going to be this length, but it was about an hour and a half, was a spot on setup. To be fair, it done it so. The production design in it is spot on, setting up this world that is, infected with this super fungus. I love, and I know this has been in the game for all these years, but I'm finding this out. I love that the zombies aren't just the run of the mill. I just like that I like the fungus thing, and I know that does lead on. I do know from little bits because I've tried to stay away from all of the reviews and stuff like that. But I do like this element of this fungus and a kind of like, not a hive mind, but the fact that it keeps people alive while it's in their brain, and they don't want them to die. To be fair though, it's still a headshot that gets rid of them. But I suppose I don't know yet whether or not the fungus can rebuild the motor neuron sense of the brain to get to animate these corpses. Because there is a scene where they are burning them at the beginning, the corpses, and it was very, very nicely done. The way in which they deliver all the relevant information that I needed as just a member, and they've obviously got to aim beyond the games, a bit like when I speak about when they do a book adaptation or comic book adaptation. These guys have got to, and they've got to cheer up their core audience, I think. Now, but I can't speak on their behalf because I'm not a gamer. But for me, as an audience member, they delivered nicely all the relevant information I needed about this world, and they've done it in an hour and a half. So now they can get on with it, with the main story, and they can unravel more and more about this world that I hope, got everything crossed, that it's going to make it interesting for me to find out. We're obviously got to find out more about our central characters, and those central characters, the performances. Pedro Pascal is back working with a good team, and he's a great actor, that guy. From that first series of Narcos, I think this is the best thing he's done. Forget all the silly bits and bobs he's done, particularly some of the Dismal Minor stuff. But anyway, you've got to work with what you've got to work with, haven't you? And he's got some good stuff to work with. And his character, I like the fact that he isn't really the most likeable old chap, is he? He starts off a bit grumpy and grizzly and a bit. I just like that. I like that. But by the end of this episode, I'm liking his character. He's just the one I'm following through this show. The young actress, I forget her name now, but who plays the girl in it? Yeah, she's kind of obnoxious and an horrible teenager-y kind of thing, but she's chained to the wall, and she's not exactly in the best of places. But even that's done for a reason, and she does it very well. Another good performance, and obviously Anna Torv on top. Those three kind of central characters to this show. There aren't any bad performances in it for me, but those three, they hold the whole thing up. The whole show is hung around their necks. So obviously They're great. His daughter at the beginning, just fantastic. Just a fantastic way of showing, apart from, you know, squishing zombies with your car and, you know, seeing soldiers, seeing aeroplanes blow up and all that, which was all done really well. His daughter dying, midpoint, almost, I think maybe a little, no, end of Act 1 I would have said, not like brilliant as in storytelling, and for me as an audience to think, my God, what else can happen? And it's a bit like that Walking Dead thing where you never knew what character was going to get it next, so there was always that, you knew there were some main ones there. But yeah, I was getting comfortable with him and his daughter, and I kind of knew the story in advance, but there's nothing to say that the daughter still survived and she stayed behind while he goes off on his travel to whatever he's got to do with this girl. So it did come, I thought they nailed it with that. And getting back to jumbo jets and the you know, smashing down into the ground, just all nice, just so, it's all been done before. The police cars and the, you know, just the setup of it right at the beginning, but I thought it was nicely handled. World War Z, the beginning of that with the police and the you know, the traffic and all that, all these standard post-apocalypse story tropes, but you've got to have them. You know, you've got to insert the character, I think anyway, you've got to put the characters you want the audience to follow into those circumstances. Yes, I had seen all that you done before, every bit of, none of it was original, but there's nowhere you can go with that. But how they did it was spot on, good effects, you know, all the usual, like it was at night and I knew that the headlight, as they was turning the truck round right at the beginning, you know the headlight is going to fall on some zombies and you're only going to see her and it's all going to, but it was all done well and I was right in it. That's what I needed, you know. And but they did it nice and slow. I like the way they kind of did it. They paced themselves nicely. And the one scene at the beginning where the old dear next door, their neighbour, and she's out of focus behind his daughter, and you can see her twisting, see her mouth twisting, her moving, and then she doesn't notice. I just thought that was so nicely done, out of focus. Because again, that they are admitting that we've seen it all before, aren't they, really? But not that. I hadn't seen that done in quite that way before. I mean, there might be someone who says, yeah, I've seen that done. But I just thought that was really, really nicely handled. And then when she's walking back, the dog looking at her. Like, just looking at her. There was even a good performance out of the dog. And then obviously the nan later on is the one with all the fungus hanging out of her mouth. That's just, and I really did like that on top of the whole zombie element of it. The way that they're kind of feeding the fungus into the body kind of thing. Yeah, it's a bit of me. And all right, I do like mushrooms. So maybe this is putting a lot of people off mushrooms, I don't know. Yeah, and then the world beyond it. So then after that, flash forward 20 years. And again, wasn't expecting quite so big a jump, but then thought that was a clever way. Whether they've done it in the game or not, like I say, I only know it from this show. The way they've jumped 20 years saved a lot of, because the economical writing in this is giving us, like I say, all the information we need. That who's set up, who's in charge, what they have to do to earn money, the ration, or not money, the ration cards, and the fact there's a black market, and the fact that they're smuggling, and old Pedro's character's part in all of that was so nicely done within all of this setup, this hour and a half, and it was hour and a half with adverts and all that, so but let's just call it hour and a half, was just so concisely done. Literally, I think it's just how you do it. And I don't know, I know there were a lot of people moaning about this entire series before it come out, and I think it's more the game purists. At the moment, I can't, well, I didn't listen to none of that because I didn't play the game, so I've got no skin in the game, so to speak. But I don't know where yet that they're spoiling it for the gamers, that perhaps we'll find out. But they haven't shown us everything. This is another night. They mention the smugglers. There was a scene where they mention smugglers and reavers or reapers or something, and it was just an aside. I just thought, oh yeah, that's what's outside of the wall of Boston, and that's the world they're in. And then they show you the maps and saying you're never going to get here. And so I think for a first episode, that is everything I wanted. And I did go into it having, I purposely, because I could see that more last year really, before anyone had a chance to see this, things were blowing up. They're going to do this. They've spoiled this. They told Pedro Pascal not to watch not to play the game. I don't know. Should he have played the game? I don't know. What would that give his performance? If he's got a decent script, why has he got to play the game? If he played the game and he came and got the job and was saying, "Oh my God, I've loved the game since it came out, however long ago it was," then that's fine. But does he really had to have played the game? You know, as a criticism, I know it might get views on YouTube moaning about that for 10 minutes, but on the evidence of this one episode, and we know how quickly these things can go downhill in these series. I don't even know how many episodes are in this, but I thought a solid first episode, and I can't wait for next week. I literally can't wait for the second episode. All I would say is these advanced screenings that all the shills have and they're all coming out gushing about the entire series. If anything, that's the bit that made me raise an eyebrow, to be fair, because nothing is ever that good. And I think overwhelmingly they were, and I think on a good old Rotten Tomatoes, which I don't, or Tomatoes, which I don't give any credence to ever at all. But and this is why, because the critics would give it 98%. Now come on, guys, come on. Anyway, I think I'll leave it there. The one thing before I go is the ending as well. Was so nicely done with that little radio. Like I say, production design, I thought in this show with the wires, you know, just setting up the fact that they have had to rebuild, or not rebuild, but they have had to retask things, and there's electric wires and different bits and pieces everywhere, and it's all old tech, you know, and there's maps like we used to have, and the old radio that old Pedro uses to keep in contact with his smuggling guys, and the music. So 70s for We've Got Stuff, 80s for, if I remember rightly, 70s, was it 60s, 70s, 80s or 78? Anyway, but Depeche Mode at the end, Never Let Me Down Again, I thought was superb. Like when they, that's the second time this week that a show has used popular music, which I normally really detest. But Kaleidoscope done it really well. And just this one tune at the end wasn't describing a mood. This is what I hate with using popular music, when the director and producers are saying, "Oh, feel sad because we're playing this music. Feel happy because we're playing this music. Feel hopeful," or, you know, whatever it is. I think it's worn out. I think it's a really, really worn out thing now. And especially when it comes right at the end of an episode. You know, it's just an eye-rolling moment for me now. But for this ended on Depeche Mode, Never Let Me Down Again, which the first line of it is, I'm taking a drive with my best friend. And I just thought that was nice because we know, you know, I do know what's coming. So that just put a wry smile on my face at the end of a post-apocalyptic bloodbath. So yeah, there's plenty of tension. They've set up the horror nicely. When the horror comes, it gets you. Well, it did me, and it was tense. Especially the opening, it was tense, and that's like I say, They were using well-worn tropes, but they'd done it very, very nicely and created that tension that we needed, and then spun us 20 years later and again set everything up very concisely. So really enjoyed it. Can't wait for next week. And on that note, I will bid you adios.